Creative Living, utilizing today's technology with the best of the past to bring you innovative ideas and up-to-date information for creative lifestyles in today's active world. With your host, Sheryl Borden.
I'm so glad you joined me today for Creative Living. We're going to learn how to make some darling dominoes, show how to make a felted fleece scarf by machine, and show a unique type of greeting card you might like to make. One of my guests is Shannon Bilkey, and she's a designer and crafter from Payson, Arizona. Shannon will show how to use regular dominoes and a few simple craft products and turn them into jewelry, books, ornaments, and much more. Her business is Shea & Company. Another guest on today's show is Michelle Muska, and she's a representative of Simplicity Creative Group in Antioch, Tennessee. Michelle's going to demonstrate the new 12-needle deluxe electric felting machine as she quickly makes a felted fleece scarf. And we'll begin the show with Donna Salazar, who's a professional crafter and designer. And Donna's going to show how to create a greeting card with a removable paper hair flower. So you have two gifts in one. Her company is Donna Salazar Designs, and she's from Irvine, California. Donna, thank you so much for being here and for bringing all of these things that some I've seen in magazines and craft outlets, but I would have no idea what to do with them. So I'm glad you're here to tell us what we're going to do. Where do you find inspiration for the things that you make?
A lot of times it's just playtime in my studio, and I'll see something that someone's done and maybe just try to do it a little bit differently, put my twist on it. My girly grunge twist is what I call it.
Girly grunge, okay. And this has an example of girly grunge on it. And this is actually two gifts in one, isn't it?
Yes.
A card.
And then it has a mixed media hair flower that just pulls off. It's got a little bobby pin on the back. So you can just slide it under. You leave a little bit of space there so you can slide it under.
Wouldn't this be cute for a babysitter?
Absolutely.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, just a little thank you gift for someone who's done something nice.
Okay, how do we get started doing this?
Okay, so I used a large format die cut machine.
Now these are the dies, and these are
really,
large,
really large dies, right? And that is what cut this out. But because it has a flat edge, I wanted to add a little bit of something to it. So I went ahead and I used this pre-die cut stuff, and I just wrinkled it up, and this is going to become a ruffle on the
wrinkled
edge.
it up intentionally.
Yes, wrinkled it up intentionally. But because I like the girly grunge, I have this distressing machine that works really fast.
And it's a distressing machine.
It's a distressing machine, and it helps for people who have carpal tunnel and don't want to do the constant
sandpaper.
Yeah,
isn't that what you do?
It's really fast. It's a little bit loud, but
let me see how you do it.
So it sounds a little bit like a power tool. So that was really super fast. And I'm going to let you try this right here. All you do is push
go on this
button,
edge. Okay.
and then just run that edge through. And so you get a little bit of a distress.
It's the best grunge I've ever seen. I never knew they had that sort of thing. I just have done the fingernail file or a piece of sandpaper.
Yeah, it makes it a lot faster.
But with the scalloped edge,
it's
really easier.
Yeah. Okay, so I've already done that to this, and I've inked up the edges, and I've added some adhesive here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that ruffle.
Oh, and it's paper.
And it's
it would be easy
ruffle.
with fabric, but I see what you mean.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this edge, and it's really, really fast. You just line up one side, then line up the other side.
Just like sewing.
Yep, and then just kind of work from here, and that gives me an idea. So because I'm really not a very exact person, as you can see, and you just kind of wrinkle as you go. all the way across. And then once you get that whole ruffle done, oops, I got it kind of crooked here. But once you get that ruffle done, then you are going to just add the this little lace with the pearls on it.
And you know, for people who sew, I have drawers and
Lots,
containers full of just little pieces, you know, 8, 9, 10 inches that you can't do anything else with.
Right, and so I have it go off the edge there. And then I'll add a little bit more of that adhesive here on the back to flip that around. But there is this open space here in the middle where I will be able to take the paper flower and
that's why you left the open space,
right,
I see.
Right. But what I'm going to show you now is this flower. And this was done from a bunch of those dies that work with the large format machine, so you can cut them all out at the same time.
And you can cut multiple pieces at a time?
Yes, you can.
Oh, how nice.
Depending on the thickness, this is pretty thin.
Oh, yeah, that's
And so
thin.
you can cut about 4 layers of this at a time,
Is this
no
just
problem.
newspaper, or what is
This
that?
is actually specifically for crafting.
Oh,
And I liked that look of the newspaper dictionaries, but a lot of the times when you're using that stuff and you try to work with it, it gets just kind of
It
gray
smears that
and
ink.
smeary. Yeah. So what you do, there's actually already a hole in the center of this flower. So you just stack them up by size, then put a brad in, and then you just kind of go like this.
Oh, just to pick up the
It's
edges.
so
I see.
easy to do this flower. And then you just spritz it, and I have a little happiness container is what I call it.
So that it doesn't get all over
yeah,
your
so it doesn't go
house.
everywhere. And then I'll take a little bit of this clear glue that is very fine, and I will, it's not fine, it's thin, so
It's
it works
thin.
really nice with fine glitter. And I will just kind
It's
of
random. You're
run
not putting it-
Yeah, I'm not a very precise kind of a person.
And
And then I
that's-
just kind of stick it in here and then shake the glitter over it and then tap it off. And then I'll probably add more layers of that, you know, as you go down. But what you can do with this same exact die set is you can make flowers that look like this.
This is just gorgeous.
So if you don't want to be just random and quick, you can actually sculpt little roses out of those dies.
Those were die-cut flowers as well.
Same exact die as this here. Or you can use, this one uses watercolor paper.
Oh.
And this is actually from this die set. This is the, it's got, so you can do
made a
little
book.
fun mixed media, all random shapes and sizes for it.
I see. But this flower is
This
the
flower
watercolor
is that same
paper?
die, watercolor paper.
Wow.
So
Now,
super simple.
Finding resources, especially if you don't live in an area where a person could take your classes or whatever. You have a chronicle that I think people might be interested in knowing about.
Yes, this is what I use for most of my mixed media. And they can find information on my website, and it'll tell them where they can find it and different things that are available to them.
Because sometimes even though we may see this demo like today, when we get home and get all of our supplies, it's like, did she do that first or did she do something else first? So
Yeah.
it's really nice to have that as a reference for
Yeah.
later on.
Yes.
Well, Donna, thank you so much. I've learned
Absolutely.
about a lot of things I didn't even know were available.
Thank you.
Michelle, it's really nice to have you here, and I understand we're going to be introduced to a felting machine, which certainly takes all that hand labor out of the process.
It's fast and easy and fun, and you can be very creative and save all your time for being creative instead of, you know, doing
Spending
this.
the mundane,
Right,
doing that
right,
mundane
and
task.
hurting your elbow at the same
Well,
time.
yes,
so.
and you experience that yourself. And scarves are so popular this year, but I have to admit, I was surprised that you could felt on when you're making a scarf, because they're usually very pliable and
Right.
and soft.
Well, we're doing something a little untraditional today. I usually felt with wool and silk and velvet and things like that. That's more my style, but I found that you could felt on fleece. And I thought, wow, how great is that, especially when you want to make, how many scarves can you make out of a yard of fleece?
Well, how many?
And there dozens, probably.
How
right?
inexpensive a job
Right.
is that?
And really fun too. And so you can get a couple different colors of fleece. You can add them together. You can put roving around it.
And
You
it's
can
still fairly
it is.
soft. I
And
thought it
what
would be
you can
hard.
do is, you know, leave the embellishments towards the bottom. So the part you wrap around your neck is still
It's
really
very soft.
pliable and soft. And kids like that, and some of us grown-ups do too. Like it's so nice and soft around
And I
our
was
necks.
thinking too, of course, this one is close down here, but you could do fringe on the bottom,
yes,
just
you
clip
could.
it,
You
because
could
you
do
don't have to worry
fringe,
about raveling.
Or you could do a scalloped edge all around.
that's a good
if you'd
idea.
like. So, you know, it's pretty much endless. You could use your rotary cutters. You know, they have the scalloped wavy blades and the pinking, things like that. So you could
that's a
really,
good idea.
Yeah, you could do all kinds of
And fleece comes in so many colors.
and prints too. So.
Oh,
But I like to use the solid because I think it shows up the other colors
do
and shows up the roving. I particularly love to use the hand-dyed alpaca roving that is here, and I have a big ball
it's
in the front.
hand-dyed, so that's why this skein, I guess you could
Right,
call it,
right.
of the alpaca yarn is so beautiful.
It is. It comes
has
in
so
so
many
many
colors in
different
it.
colors. So what's really fun is you could use this. same roving, but you could use it on a green base, a purple base. You could use it on a pink base. So you could use this particular roving on all the different fleeces if you like. This is a little more, this is what's the little more pricey part of it, but that's the fun part too. So I'm going to start showing you how to work the felting machine. This one in particular has a nice guard around the 12 needles. And I think that's really helpful because, you know, we all get excited and we get our fingers in there and you never have to worry about getting
accidents.
Right. So you can also work with children. And fleece and poly felt is a really good base to start with kids because it's inexpensive and you don't have to worry about them, you know, messing up and trying again. And pretty much everybody's very successful, even with their first try.
Oh, that's encouraging.
Yeah, it's really helpful. So what I did is I found contrasting fleece. I used purple and I just took some, actually I took the end of my thread spools and drew around them.
Made a pattern.
Right, made a pattern. And you know, you can use the markers if you want because on fleece I think you need something a little more stable to do that. And then you can just plop it there.
And do you ever use multiple layers at a time?
You
or
can,
do you just,
if you like. Yep. So I could actually put a smaller green piece or pink on top of that and do that all together. I happen to be, since I'm so experienced with the felting machine, I don't need to hold this down. But it's not advisable to use pins because if you're not careful and you don't take the pin out in time, if your needle touches a pin, it will break your needle.
So if you break one needle, do you have to change the whole unit?
No, you
Oh,
don't.
good.
You can change them. I actually have gone down just to a couple because I'm like really excited about what I'm doing and I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
But when you get down to maybe 4 or 5, or it makes kind of a thumping noise, you'll know that it's pretty much time to change.
Okay.
And it's fairly simple to do that. It comes with a little Allen wrench and you just take them apart. The needles are individually barbed, which there's little notches taken out of the actual steel.
That's what does the process.
Right, exactly.
Of felting.
So the needles come through the top, take the fibers on the top fabric, push them down below, and then they pull it back up through. And that's what, you know, attaches them together.
And it looks so strange because you don't use any thread.
No thread,
There's no
thread,
bobbin.
no bobbins. But it does have a foot pedal like a machine. But you just have to make sure that there's no feed dog, so it's not going to move it for you. You have
do
to
it like free
constantly
motion
move it.
quilting, kind of?
Exactly. And what you want to do is, you know, have a nice rhythm, a nice speed. If you move the bottom fabric too fast when the needles are down, you'll bend your needles. And that could cause them to break as well.
That makes sense.
And you're going to break needles. It just happens. You know. I do it all the time. So, you know. I don't like it when I do it, but, you know. So I started felting here, and what I'm going to show you, you start to see some little
kind
holes
of a waffle
in there.
weave.
Right. And you can always take your finger or your nail and go like this and kind of, you know, get that.
Now, what if you decided you didn't like that there, you wanted it
well,
farther
I
up?
haven't felted too long, so I can
You can just
take
pull it right
and
up.
I can pull it right up. So you can see on these pieces, they've been felted a little bit longer. This is a little bit harder, and it has roving around it. So I really
Would
can't.
sort of hate to pull that.
Yeah, but I'm going to show you I can, but that one's pretty much there.
And if you
know.
did and then changed your mind, you could go back and
I
felt
could,
right on top of
so
that.
I'm going to just do that. And there it is, all
So
better.
fast.
Yeah. Self-mending. you know.
Self-mending.
So I'm going to get this down. And then here, the roving that we talked a little bit about, you can pull apart very easily like this. So I take a little piece like this, and I just wind it around.
Now, what if, like on this, what if I really wanted more of this pink? Would I just want to cut that
You
off?
could. You could cut it or you could pull it, depending.
pull it, okay.
The thicker it is, the harder it is to pull. But, you know, say you did want the pink,
Oh, so you could
and
just,
you can
I
just
see.
do it. And, you know, we, of course, in my stash at home, I have pink and purple.
I bet.
You know, so I have a little bit of everything. So, but, and so what you can do is you can wind it around like this. The other thing you can do for placement is you can use a spray adhesive. You
Oh,
put a little
that's a good
spray adhesive
idea.
down, and it does not gum up the needles for some reason. It works great. So that's helpful too.
Yeah,
especially
if
in the
you're not
beginning.
used to, right, I thought the
I
same
think in the
thing.
beginning. Personally, I like the excitement of kind of what happens. You
What
know,
happens,
whatever
happens.
happens, and it's kind of part of the design. So as you can see, I did that around here. So I'm going to try another piece. Let's get another piece here without the purple.
Oh,
And we can see how that comes out.
Never two alike, is there?
Yeah, no, and that's the beauty of it. And and you can see it's so fun and easy, the felting machine. It's just really simple.
Does it have multiple speeds, or do you control that with
You
your
control
foot?
the speed yourself,
Okay.
yeah. So you can go slower, like this, and then you can get going. And that's about the fastest it will go.
That looks pretty fast to me.
Yeah. And then let me show you the opposite side too. So you can see it's starting to come through the other side.
Right, that's interesting how that's exactly what it does because of that little barb on the needle.
Now sometimes the other side looks really beautiful, and I've used it has a very ethereal look to it, and I've used the other side for embellishments and things. So I think, oh, I like the other side better. Sometimes too, what you can do to help out, you can do this side too to really make it stick, but you have to be aware that some green might start coming up through.
But
If you
that's
don't
okay.
mind that,
If-
that's
yeah,
okay. If you do mind it, then it's a problem.
But I wanted you to tell us about this.
Well, I made this little cute Christmas tree ornament. I put it on cards and different things, but I started with some green
got lots
wool
of
felt.
ribbon,
Yeah.
too,
And I had this great sweater. It's really hard to find old sweaters that are colorful, but my mom always searched for me at the Goodwill or someplace like that. And I found this one. Well, she found it actually. And I washed it and dried it 3 times.
And you do recommend always doing that because
Right.
you want it to shrink up as tight.
Right, as tight as you can. And you can also, knit and crochet something in 100% wool and wash it and dry it. The process is actually called fulling, but you end up with a felted fabric, which is a
okay.
result. So I took the sweater and I cut it into strips so you can kind of pull it a little bit too. And I'm just run that right under the felting machine.
It's the same technique.
Same technique.
You just are creating
Right.
sort of a background piece.
And I found this beautiful yarn that I love. And it has a little bit of iridescent sparkle, which reminded me of like snowflakes and Christmas. And I just thought it was really pretty.
It is.
And then I just took my rotary cutter and cut out some really tall triangles. I thought it reminded me of like Dr. Seuss or something.
And you could make ornaments out of it, or like you said, you could put it on cards.
Right, I put it on the front of a silver card, a
Oh, I
metallic
bet that's
silver
beautiful.
card, and then I tied a little bow on it, and I attached it very simply so they could take it off and put it on the Christmas tree.
That's a good idea. You could sew bells, or you could
Yeah.
do other embellishments on top
endless.
of it. Endless. I know. I'm just sitting here thinking of all kinds of things to do. Well, thank you so much. It's
You're
really
so
fun to learn
welcome.
about all the new technology that's available.
And it's so easy too.
It is. Shannon, I was so excited that you were coming because I know you just sit around and come up with the most unique items to make and do. You're called a mixed media artist. What does that really mean?
Mixed media is using just about any supplies you want with anything else you want to use.
And it's always multiples, isn't it?
It's always multiples, and it allows you to use bits and pieces of everything you have and not have to go out and buy supplies. Just use what you like, what you
Sorta
enjoy.
like we used to do as kids when we'd make things out of
Right.
whatever mom had available.
And that's when I started.
Is
and
that right?
It's never stopped.
Well, today we're talking about darling dominoes.
My darling dominoes,
I
yes.
just love that. Well, we'll just show, we can't, hopefully people can see this, and it's a little
It's
fan
a little
design,
accordion book,
folded.
and you can close it up and tie it up short. And I've always loved the miniatures.
Well, I do too.
And that, if you wanted to, and you
could
felt
tie it.
compelled, you could tie it up and have your little mini. People would have to look at it and say, what is that? And if you see, I've used buttons, and I've used a little bit of glitter and glue-on and a little stitch of paper.
Lots of, all those little pieces from scrapbooking
Right.
that we save. And
And we try not to save too many because you can make too many things. There's just too much to do.
too much and so little time. I
Right.
love this necklace.
Well, that's just, thank you. I took it from, it's a domino, which is my favorite these days because it's miniature too, and you can do so many things to it.
You
We
can see the
alcohol
front.
inked it. I took a little clip of some ephemera, and I inked it and glued it down, and I used a little bead and another little bead there, and I wired it and little bits of chain and a couple charms, and then I found some bits and pieces of necklaces here and there. I go to a lot of thrift stores.
I bet you do.
And you can find wonderful things without having to spend a lot of money.
And you look at things totally different, don't you?
I do.
Somebody might look at this and say, oh, that's an old chain.
Do. Right.
You immediately.
And that is 2 or 3 different chains put together because, you know.
This looks like a little book.
It is a little book. I use my handy dandy Dremel saw to drill the holes in these.
I wondered how you got that in there.
Yeah, and it works beautifully. And then I just made a little tiny signature, which is 1 set of pages in a book. Little teeny tiny signature, and I inked it, and I stamped it a little bit.
Oh, and look, you can see the inside of the domino. You color coordinated them.
Oh,
the
yes.
blues.
And then you have to find something tiny to tie it up with. Well, I like the rustic look, so that worked really well for me, the little jute.
Okay.
And then you have your miniature artwork to go along with my favorite miniatures. Yeah, and I drilled some holes, and what that was originally it was drilled like this with a number of holes in it because I was making Christmas ornaments, which I forgot to bring, and they're lovely, by the way.
But that's a good idea.
Yes, and you wire it, and with your wire you have the random freedom of wiring it the way you want, putting the beads in it the way you want. But before I would do that, I would alcohol ink it.
Okay, and
alcohol ink will stay on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. This is alcohol ink. There's a lot of different ones out there, and what it does is it dries quickly, but it also stays on the surface.
Oh, and you don't have to put a top coat like a poly, something, a clear color to seal it.
No, and I just use an old napkin. You could buy all these fancy supplies, but you just put a little bit in.
And it doesn't take much, does it?
No, and then you dab it. You dab it, and then you smear it. And see, I do it lightly. If you would like to, you could put it right on like this and then start smearing. And as with the domino, it doesn't really take up a lot. But once it starts to dry, you can put little edges in. See how you let it dry there a little bit. Then you work with the surface and see how it's modeled. It kind of, I go with that. Yeah. This is a gold, which when it dries, when this dries, I dab it on, blends right in with the different colors.
Is this the gold?
That's the gold and the green and a few dabs of the red.
And did you use a stencil to do this, or did you
No, this is a stamp, and then it's embossed.
Oh, okay.
So there's so many things. You can do rub-ons. You can do stick-ons of bling. Those are pearls. You can do just about anything that suits you. For the Christmas ornaments, I cut up old Christmas cards.
Oh, and I save those every year.
Yes, and you use such tiny bits that you don't even feel satisfied that you saved them because you should be able to use them more, you know. But then you can put them on with Mod Podge, but you would put it on after it's got the
after you've done your
ink.
ink.
Right, and then I tend to go back and edge the pieces a little bit so that they have a totally finished look. And this would be, I think this was going to be an ornament without the hole, so I would have to find some more metal pieces at a thrift store.
Do you, you even painted on this side.
Yes.
Do you ever cover these little guys up, or do you tend to leave those
I
so
tend
it
to
looks...
leave them because with the mixed media, it's kind of the freedom of kind of letting it go. If if you kind of like it, go with it. You know, you don't have to finish everything. I need to finish things. That's why I did the back, but I think this back is finished enough. It's got the gold finish. Nothing looks...
It ties in with the rest of it.
Nothing looks unfinished. But mixed media, you can go, you start with some supplies. You never know where you're going to end up. And where you end up is fine, usually. Where you end up, you're going, oh, that's great. I'm going to make something else, but it's not going to be the same.
Well, and that's
the
why
fun
those
part.
of us who sew save every scrap of rickrack and every piece of lace or whatever.
Right, and then you use it with this.
And
Use
if
the
you
fiber
scrapbook,
with
you've
this.
got all of these. This is a
Right.
great way to use up things, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, this is cute. I hadn't thought about using dominoes, so I'm going to try
Dominoes.
that. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. Next time on Creative Living, we'll learn all about edible plants. We'll talk about building a healthier heart and a healthier life. And finally, we'll demonstrate how to make beautiful faux bronze columns. One of my next guests owns and operates a nursery and landscaping business, and he's going to talk about edible plants such as thyme, stevia, lavender, as well as geraniums, pansies, and other flowers. Another guest is a registered dietitian and author, and she's going to explain how to build a healthier heart and a healthier life. Her 4-step plan is doable for everyone. And finally, we'll talk to a very talented lady who will show how to paint columns or any accessory to coordinate using oil-rubbed bronze cabinet hardware and plumbing fixtures, which are really shown in today's new home construction. All of these topics will be featured on the next Creative Living show. If you ever have comments or suggestions or ideas for shows, you can email me at cheryl.borden@enmu.edu. I'd also like to ask you to become a fan of Creative Living on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and in the search window type in Creative Living with Sheryl Borden. Thanks so much, and I hope you'll plan to join me next time for Creative Living.
We are very pleased to offer a new booklet that accompanies this series of Creative Living. This booklet is titled the 6600 Series, and it features a wonderful collection of ideas and information, and it's available free of charge on our website. Posted as a PDF file, you can simply download the entire booklet, or just the segments you're most interested in. As with all of the Creative Living booklets, you'll find information on foods and nutrition, clothing and fashion, health and beauty, home decorating, and much more. For your copy of this booklet, go to our website at KENW.org and then click on Creative Living. Scroll down to the booklet section and you can click on this booklet or any of the other booklets we have available online. Once again, just go to KENW.org, click on Creative Living, and download the booklet titled the 6600 Series. We also want to encourage you to sign up for our free e-newsletter. Just click on the Sign Up Now button and input your email address. That's all there is to it. You'll enjoy reading an up-to-date newsletter filled with interesting topics and information. Thank you.